Ashley,
Kristen.
and this is Authors Aloud, presented by My Audio Rocks.
Here at Authors Aloud, we talk to new authors about their books and get all of the information from them about what's been going on in their world, their inspirations, and where you can find their book.
And today we have Laura Paisley Beck, who wrote License to Sell, an interchangeable action novel. Ooh,
So
it's exciting.
excited to talk. Oh, lovely. Can you hold it up a little more?
Yeah.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. So where are you joining us from today, Laura?
Madison, Wisconsin.
Madison. No, you guys don't do the Michigan accent. What is a Madison accent?
I don't know, but it's very sophisticated and cool either way.
Yeah. We're like somewhere between New York and Canadian.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. A blend, a lovely
Yeah.
blend.
Yeah,
You know, Chicago, we're close to that. Yeah.
Got it.
hmm
So here is a very, very big ask. Can you sum up your book in a few sentences?
Yes. And you're right. It is a fairly big ask, but
Yeah.
I tell people that it's basically a crazy choose your own adventure style book for adults that's about an insurance agent acting like a secret agent, and it's completely gender neutral. So
Nice.
even though there's sassy, sexy scenes in it and many other work related chapters that make fun of our American business landscape, um, yeah, there's not a single character that is gendered.
I have to know, was that challenging to write to make everything gender neutral?
It got easier.
Okay.
Um, and at first it kind of was, and I was embarrassed by that. And
I mean,
then it
yes,
just got
I would be.
easier.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
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 And I chose to do that on purpose because I've been an award-winning salesperson and serial entrepreneur for most of my life. And so when I came out as bi and a writer just a few years ago, I rewrote this story purposefully gender neutral because I'm so sick of gender roles and um, just a lot of typical tropes. It was
Yeah.
just time to break that all apart.
I love it. I love it. I love it.
Laura, who did you write this book for?
That's a great question because originally it was supposed to be just for insurance agents, and there was a challenge to get it self-published and ready for this huge insurance conference. And because at the time I was an insurance agent and somebody who was a restoration company rep said, "We'll buy 1,000 copies of it and sell it at our booth if you get it done by XYZ date." And I was 125,000 words in. And then, without oversharing, just a big life change happened. And I had to move my agency, move back to my hometown, put the book on the back burner, and just pull out. And now I'm grateful for that because it was so much more fun to decide to leave insurance altogether, rewrite it with my usual sassy, hilarious, like vibe on things and make it more for everybody. Everybody who can read at that level, I guess,
I
older.
am fascinated by the idea that you started out writing a book for insurance agents. That is the weirdest sentence I've ever heard.
I
It
was
wouldn't be so weird if it were specifically about like insurance, but this is a choose your own adventure novel.
Yeah, yeah. And there's a reason for that. Like 4 months in, I passed all of the exams. There's 4 exams in Wisconsin, and got all certified and passed all of the sales goals in order to be officially an agency owner. And 4 months in, some crazy stuff started happening. And I was drinking scotch with my oldest brother. And I was just like, seriously, dude, I could write a choose your own adventure book for insurance agents. And he's like, you should do it. And I'm like, I'm serious. Like, there are so many times where, these both agents and clients, it's not just on
Yeah.
the agent
Yeah,
side,
yeah.
are at this moral and ethical crossroads. And I just passed all these exams
Interesting.
with all of this fear put into me for ever doing anything, even accidentally wrong. Like there's just so many.
Mhm.
And these clients and insurance agents choosing the all the other bad paths and then
Yeah.
where it takes them and what happens as a result. And it's like, it's the perfect book for the ramifications for the decisions that we make. And, all the different
Interesting.
possible outcomes that can happen. So it became even more fun to write that with a little bit more infusion of, to be honest, just some crazy stuff's happened in my own life. So it got to be fun to kind of process through some trauma and
Yeah.
like, make fun of other people in my life. That is kind of like took a whole bunch of people and smooshed them into one character. So there's nobody that's just one character,
Sure, sure, sure.
but there might be like 12 people just kind of twisted and twirled into this other character.
So, what made you decide to write an interchangeable action novel, as you call it, which is basically, as we're talking about, choose your own adventure
Yeah.
for your debut novel? Why did that come about
Yeah.
for you?
Basically, I'm crazy. Like I can't do
Okay,
anything the easy way
sure.
apparently. So if I was going to write a book, it wasn't going to be, all the ones that people recommend you start with. And it wasn't even, the typical, hey, you're a business owner. You should write a book that helps you get more sales of, selling your services and
Right.
blah, 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 yeah, obviously this book is not that.
Hmm.
Um, and I wrote 125,000 words of it, and I wasn't going to throw it in the trash. I needed to at least repurpose it and get it out there my way.
Wow.
And so I called it my Break the Seal book. And I figured if I can do this, I can do almost anything. I might be right about that.
I'm so curious. Did you have to like storyboard like you do with a movie? Like that's what my brain is having trouble wrapping around. Like how do you like, okay, well if they go this way then this happens, and if they go this way and this happens, and I'm assuming that happens more than once. You can choose several times, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So did you literally like how did you map that?
Well, some of it is my own little secret.
Okay, that's
Um,
fine.
but yeah, I also was wrapping my head around it several different times. I would do different kinds of spreadsheets, and I had this writer's residency up at right on Door County where I got to spend an entire week all by myself working just on this book. And unfortunately, something very devastating happened to me personally just before that. So it was so hard to process both things at the same time. I had literally had an art therapist come visit me at the
Hmm.
residency, and we worked
Yeah.
on some of my own stuff so I could just try to focus on the book. But it was so fun having this entire house to myself that wasn't mine. And I brought a whole bunch of index cards with me and color coded stuff. And I filled an entire living room with
Yeah.
all of these different index cards that I could move around and, create story paths with
Yeah.
different characters. And, even like, this is a good ending. This is a bad ending. This is where, a solution happens. This is where devastation happens,
Yeah.
whatever. I had it
Yeah.
all. So they took a photo. They were like, this is insane. This is awesome.
And then you had pins and red dot, right?
Painter's tape, actually. It was painter's tape and index cards and markers everywhere. Yeah. And my vintage 1960s Royal typewriter to just I call it pounding out words. Just sometimes you need just that physical. I need that physical, like,
Yeah.
and yeah, it can
Well, tell me,
try
what
to
did you
only do
learn
that.
about yourself while you were writing the book? That sounds like an incredible journey. And man, a week alone to focus on anything sounds absolutely divine.
Yeah. Um, I learned I'm easily distracted. That um I learned that at that time, I couldn't let myself, I was so used to all life, like not letting myself cry, to be honest.
Hmm.
So I was just kind of always that like zip it up, button it up, and be strong and push through and just make everybody else happy person. So I had to force myself to cry out a lot of stuff that I didn't for 40 some years. And in order to do that, I had to like just continuously draw teardrops. And so that's literally what I would do to help get beyond, and then I could write. So I would just grab a page and grab some markers of just whatever colors and just sit there, and I wouldn't even look at the page necessarily. I would just keep drawing teardrops, and the more I drew them, the more I could cry, and then I would just keep going until I finally could stop. And the result was actually pretty beautiful.
That's fascinating.
But that's what I had to do to get through.
Yeah.
And so I think that's kind of a nice lesson that you don't necessarily hear from a lot of writers, is like, you gotta get rid of a lot of your head trash, or take care of your heart and take care of yourself before you can work on your big passion project.
Yeah.
And that's what that week let me do.
Wow, that's amazing. So I'm curious, if it's not too personal of a
Mhm.
question, do you still struggle with crying? Do you have to go through that process? Or does it come easier to you now?
It comes so much easier now. It's and I get so uncomfortable when I'm just like, "Oh my God, I'm crying." And I have a wonderful partner in my life who's just like, "No, it's good, cry." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I have such a wonderful life right now."
Oh, that's amazing. Well, speaking
Yeah.
of that, you published this book and it clearly has changed the trajectory of your life.
Yeah.
So talk about that a little bit. Tell us how it's changed, what, you know,
Mhm.
where was that moment? Like, tell us all about it.
Yeah. So if you can imagine COVID times, Um, I had literally packed up my Subaru full of all my stuff and my dog and moved to a shitty apartment. Can I swear on here? Uh, totally shitty apartment in Madison, away from Door County, just leaving that entire life behind and decided to change absolutely everything. Um, and and in that that's when I decided to like truly be as authentic as I possibly could be. And I thought, oh my gosh, with all my sales experience, I could be a copywriter. Holy cow, this is
Wow.
awesome. So immediately started getting jobs. Like it was weird. Like as soon as I said I was a writer, people were like, I love the way you write. I want you to write for my magazine. I'm going to be the managing editor. Or, oh, I want you to help me with my business and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, well, this is kind of cool, but I got to finish this book too. And as soon as I finished the book, there were people I was meeting with for the purposes of marketing who loved the book so much that they were trying to figure out how I could write this book to help them with their business initiatives. Because they just
Interesting.
loved this idea of like, hey, this could be a really great way to illustrate what we're trying to guide other people on, like
Mm,
why
mhm.
this process works and why these old practices don't, or how to understand the ramifications of toxic workplace culture or whatever. There were just so many different beautiful examples of how I could
Hmm.
do that to help other organizations. And then that's how I got the current client I have. They grew up in Utah in a Mormon family.
Hmm.
So they totally grew up Mormon and then eventually came out as gay and then came out as trans. And literally just a week or two ago, just moved away from Utah finally.
Wow.
So we're writing. This is what's been really cool is that I encourage them to work with their therapist to use journaling as a way to help them process through their trauma.
Sure.
And they'd never journaled before, ever. So it was like a brand new practice for them. And it's become quite an amazing experience just in that. And then they share those journal entries with me to help inform the book, but we're fictionalizing it. And
Got it.
we're writing it in a very different way. So instead of you as the reader acting as the trans person making decisions, you have to decide on what the supporting characters do and how that impacts their life.
Wow.
That's wild.
Yep. So it's even more challenging to write, to be honest with you, but it's so fun. It's so fun.
Yeah.
And it's also hard. So this is yet another experience where I took the month of November off because I knew this was a really intense project. And so I wrote my friends in Portugal and I said, I'm coming to Portugal for the month of November. I'm leaving on election day and I'm there for the purposes of intensely writing this book. And then by the time I actually got to Portugal through literal planes, trains, bus, and automobile, the only thing I didn't get on was a boat. Um, I it was like, oh, this is not the result I thought we would be talking about. So there was like, okay, we're gonna pretend that the election results didn't happen. Gonna go to the ocean, enjoy, Portugal and your three-legged dog and, whatever. And then I'm gonna go to my other friends and, take the train and go help them with the olive harvest and just totally pretend that none of this actually is reality that's going on in the US. And then after the olive harvest happened, it all just hit hard. And it hit hard
Mm,
for my client as well as for me. And so here I am alone in this apartment trying to listen to some really great audiobooks
sure.
that my actual client had recommended to help make sure I got the voice and some perspective, in addition to the journal entries that they were sending me. And then I ended up processing even some of my own traumas as well. And so there was a lot
A
of
lot.
crying, a
A
lot of
lot.
mourning. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
hard.
That's
So I thought
incredible.
the book would have been done by now. And it just couldn't get done by now. Like both the client and I needed lots of breaks, a lot of time to like, put it aside and then come back and
Yeah.
give ourselves a lot of self-love. We're both being really patient with each other and giving each other a lot of grace and helping each other emotionally a lot, a
Yeah.
lot.
When you were talking, there are two things that came to mind when you were talking about working with like businesses or companies that want you to write something similar for them. I've done narration for several companies where they have like sort of like onboarding, like you need to watch this thing and you have to click here. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this would be so great for training. Like if it were an ethical situation, if it were a whatever, like to have these stories that are well written, because most of them are shit,
Yeah,
and have this well written thing that you've got this little animated, whatever that you're following. That would be amazing. The other thing I thought of is graphic novel, like choose your own adventure graphic novel. This sounds like ripe for that kind of thing.
sure.
Yeah.
And so also, that's why I call mine interchangeable action novel because
Mhm.
Choose Your Adventure is so protected. So
Yes.
even Netflix lost, it went all the way to
Right.
the Supreme Court and Netflix still lost.
Yeah.
So holy moly, like, yeah, our
I didn't
copy,
realize that.
yeah, yeah. So you could talk to some of our favorite attorneys who are all about intellectual rights, and they're just like, they were watching that case like salivating, like what is going to happen, or a little bit of white knuckling this. Like this is going to be really interesting for so many
Yeah.
reasons. And yeah, it was really fat. So I always have to be careful when
Yes, so
using that term.
interchangeable action novel
Yeah.
turned into a graphic novel style.
Well, in games, so there's a lot of video
Sure.
game
Yep.
people, programmers who are just like, oh, I want to turn your book into a game.
Yeah.
And it's like, to your point, how cool would that be if we could turn some really cool DEI initiatives and training, inclusivity in general training. And that's what these books are doing, that I'm writing for my client. And I've got another one that I want to write as a sequel to this one from one of my other characters' perspectives and their story and who they get connected to and the how they end up where they
Yeah.
do or different paths that were not taken in the first book that you can take on the other one.
Yeah.
is that they are supposed to show different perspectives and good, yeah, good decision making or bad decision making or neutral. Like maybe it's not good or bad. It's just this is what happens. This is life, and it's um, yeah, it's not all what so many other books make it out to be. Like,
Yeah, 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 no
yeah.
kidding. That's awesome.
And it can be a business book and fun, like you were talking about. It can be well written and fun instead of the typical business book that's like, so this is this and that is that. And this is my hypothesis
Listen,
about this.
Most business books
listen.
are so boring. They're
I
just the worst.
They are. And
and
here's a little
most
workbook that goes with it. And
trainings
it's
are
like,
boring. Most of those
yeah.
trainings, I have done voiceover for many of them. a- uh, and across the board, and I don't know who's copywriting this stuff, but you can tell that they're like a really boring person who's trying to make it interesting and trying to make it like fun, so they want me to do a robot voice, right? And I'm like, it's
Poor
just
Kristen.
yeah, it's okay. I mean, listen, I get paid. But for these people that have to watch this, I'm like, I would be bored to tears. But something like this, right, would be
Right.
so great. So
Well, one
great.
of my favorite business stories actually is the game company that made Who You Don't Know Jack, which you might remember playing when you were like in middle school, like I do. It became
I
the
wasn't in middle school.
Okay. Well, some of us might have been. Anyway, the company that made You Don't Know Jack pivoted and is now an Jellyvision, which is an HR tech company. And they sort of took the idea that if you were playing You Don't Know Jack and you were answering questions and that would take you to the next thing, that worked really well for making like benefits decisions. And so it's just so fascinating to me how that transition must have happened. And, like who was the brains behind that one? And what was that
Yeah.
initial meeting like where somebody says like, we're not working so well as a game. We should throw in the towel. And someone else is like, no. How about HR software? And somehow that one was the right one is wild.
Yeah. My You Don't Know Jack story is that I was newly married. My husband and I were not well versed in our individual gameplay styles, I guess I should say.
You didn't know each other's or you didn't know your own?
We didn't know each other's.
Okay.
And he is an oldest boy. I am a youngest girl in my family. This comes into play. He is a very, very smart man, like scary smart. It freaks me out, right? But that's what he is. He reads about 3 times as fast as I do. And in You Don't Know Jack, you're reading. I'm pretty good at trivia. I pick up weird stuff. In You Don't Know Jack, you're reading the screen, and then back then it was a keyboard, and you hit the keyboard as to whatever answer.
Mm-hmm.
He'd be hitting the keyboard before I had the question read, right? I couldn't even take in what the question was before he had the answer. I did not get one You Don't Know Jack question right.
No.
And as the youngest girl in my family, that does not sit well with me, right? Losing. And as the oldest boy in his family, he's like, meh, I don't care. Like, I don't care if I win or lose. And I'm like, this is infuriating. This is infuriating. So I'm kind of glad they turned it into HR, because that game might have gotten me divorced, is all I'm saying.
But you're still married, right?
Yeah.
Well,
But we never played You Don't Know Jack again, and we never play Monopoly. We played Monopoly one time, never again.
There's no reason to play Monopoly ever. It's fine. You're not missing anything.
No.
It's a very
no.
depressing game.
Yeah.
Laura, so back to your book, have you had any really memorable reactions or feedback from readers so far?
Yes, almost all of them are memorable. I have, had some very like usually mild-mannered lesbian friends like come up to me with like their face turning redder as they approach and going, "So I read your book," and I'm just like, "Yes, so you got, I think I know some like paths that you took," and they're just get more and more red, and I'm like, "Okay, hey,
Wait,
there's
this is so
29 different
fascinating.
endings. There's
What is
29
it that
different
makes
endings."
lesbians in particular blush? Are we going to have to read it to find out? We're going to have to read it to find out, I think.
I think
Oh,
it could be
yeah.
anybody, but it was just so cute. Like this particular couple people I'm thinking of are just normally they don't talk about that kind of stuff, and they're usually really quiet, and and then they approach me and just like all like
Oh, that's so cute.
I know, like it's almost like a confession or something.
Yeah.
And not all of them not all the pathways are like that, so there's 29 different endings and multiple ways to get to each one. Um, and one of my beta readers, I gave them like very specific business related story paths to read,
Mm-hmm.
but they kept passing juicier sounding chapters en route to the other, and they were like, "I'm sorry, I read all the sexy chapters I could because I just I was too intrigued." So, I mean, if you want, I could read this shortened version of a review.
I would
Yes,
love it.
please.
Yes,
Yes.
go ahead.
This is one of my favorite ones. A truly original romp through an absurd, hilarious, imaginative, sex positive, sales positive world set in, of all places, the inherently surreal American business landscape. Beautifully and heartfully and humorously written in bite-sized chapters that split into a million paths. It's a million novels in one. In my opinion, an original work of genius. If Douglas Adams and Dashiell Hammett had a baby that was raised by Salvador Dali and given a word processor, it would be this novel.
That's amazing.
That is amazing. That's fantastic. That
So there's
person
been some
needs to
fun.
write all the reviews.
And
Which is more controversial, though, or which is maybe more innovative, being sex positive or sales positive.
right.
I mean,
Yeah,
revolutionary on
that's
both fronts.
awesome.
And I think that's what's also so cool is that it could go, you can really use the book in multiple ways. Yeah, and on reviews, I have been encouraging people to go to Storygraph instead of Goodreads because Goodreads is owned by Amazon. Amazon's owned by Bezos. It's like, enough of that. So Storygraph is owned by a Black woman. It's independent.
That's awesome.
So trying to send more good vibes that way, and my
I'm
book is
writing
on
it
there.
down. Storygraph, GRAPH.com.
Yeah, yeah, I think or
Well,
you'll
I'll just,
find it.
I'll find it. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
That's amazing.
Mhm.
So, what advice would you have for new authors? Would you have any specific advice for somebody that wants to write a book and then they're like, yeah, maybe I could write a book, but then how do I go about publishing? How do I get started? What's your
Mhm.
advice in that regard?
I think first of all, like turn off the uh inner critic, or
Mhm.
as my friend Jeremy Owen says, punch those mean voices in the face.
Mm,
I say die, vampire, die. That's from musical.
So there's different ways to do that. Honestly, art therapy helped me with that a lot. And I also think that you just have to start. You can't edit anything that you haven't written. Definitely get into some writing groups. And if you get tricked by gamification or deadlines, if urgency is your thing, competition is your thing,
Hmm.
it does help to do NaNoWriMo, which is National Novel Writing
Mhm.
Month.
Mhm.
Um,
That's
and
October, November?
it's November.
Okay.
And they also have like camps and stuff like that too. So there's multiple different events. I think they have locked down their security, so they don't have some controversial issues they had just only a couple years ago, which I never experienced, but it was interesting. So yeah, definitely try that and find some people that you can have a little accountability with. So whether that's somebody else who has the same goal and you can meet at a coffee shop on a regular basis. Like, hey, Tuesdays we're going to this diner and we're writing until we're blue in the face. And, that kind of stuff helps. Hey, let's meet online. We'll do a Google Meet and we're just going to
Mm,
share our goal, what we're going to do, first 5 minutes, check in, and then we are going to write for 45 minutes and then come back and check each other at the end. There's something about that kind of uh, accountability
Accountability.
yeah.
that really helps trick you into keeping it going. And then personally, I really liked Lulu Publishing. Um, they're a B Corp, which is good. And it was really easy for me to publish my book. They won't let your physical book come out until you've gotten your like first demi copy and you've gone through it and make sure that everything is cool. And I always highly recommend before you even get there, get some beta readers, get people who are doing the journey with you with the writing, and still take their feedback with a grain of salt, you
Mm,
know? But and then I do recommend getting an editor before you hit
yeah.
that publish button. I just really I think we all have been turned off by getting to a book that we're excited to support somebody with. We buy the book because we want to support the writer. We love the person. Then reading the book, you hate the book. And now you're asked to do a review and you're just like distracted by all of the typos and grammatical errors and who knows what else, right? So
Right.
it's like, just get that editor. It's so worth it. You'll be getting so much more gratitude from your readers than you ever could even imagine.
Right.
And then I personally loved supporting who I loved in the book. I think there's just so much more, not only co-branding that comes with that, but I love collaboration instead of competition. And I just really love, squirreling away money for the purposes of supporting your favorite cover artist and illustrator. Like for
That's awesome.
me, that was this. I made sure that I paid for this amazing cover design by Tulips Creative. And then they made sure that I could take certain assets out of this cover design to use in the book. So
Nice.
actually in the book, there are, oh, am I going to find one live here? But there are pages where I just inserted a little bit of that illustration where it fit. And it was just so fun to have that
That's
ability.
awesome.
Of course, now that I'm looking for them, I can't
Of
find
course you
them.
can't find it. Of course you can't.
Here,
That's
I found a
awesome.
burning trash can. So I think that kind of, you know,
Yeah.
so I think
That's
that's
awesome.
just all part of the process. And then you've got relationships you're building just because you've got a book baby.
That's great. That's awesome. That is really, really great advice. We're going to do a little rapid fire. I don't want you to think.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
You can think. It's okay. Well, this first one is completely not right. And what's funny is when I was putting this down, it's longhand or keyboard, but you mentioned typewriter already. And I thought I should add typewriter in there because I bet there are people in the world that are still using old school typewriters. So, longhand, keyboard, or typewriter?
All of it.
All of it.
Hmm. I even do longhand with my magic pencil on my iPad. And I also have usually stains on my fingers from fountain pen ink in
Hmm.
my bullet journal. I even have preferred journals I like to use, like the Rhodia Gold Book or Lecterm 1917 A5. And and I love just pounding it out on a keyboard too.
Awesome.
Mhm.
Coffee shop, thunderstorm, or total silence?
Gosh, I'm not supposed to think.
No thinking.
Think about
Usually,
writing. Where do you
usually
want to
it's
write the
total
most?
silence, but I do the best work at a coffee shop, to be honest.
Interesting.
Yep.
Mhm.
I would walk.
Interesting.
I need to walk. So part of it is the walk to the coffee shop an hour, a half hour away, then sit down and write, and then walk. In my younger years, I would actually, like for NaNoWriMo, for example, I would get on my bicycle, go to a coffee shop, write till my butt hurt, get back on my bicycle, go to another coffee shop, write till my butt hurt, go to another coffee shop, right? And then by 10:30 at night, I've closed out the coffee shops and I'm riding my bike all the way back home. And there's a lot of
Wow.
thinking that happens, and then the
Sure.
oxygen gets in your brain. So, exercise is also really important for your brain for writing.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So if your book were a musical genre, jazz, punk, or classical?
It would be definitely on the punk side, alternative punk side. Yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
Bookstore or library?
For what?
Just bookstore or library?
I like them both. Depends on what it is.
Yeah, it's
I
true.
like bookstores for the readings, and I love asking the bookstore people, like at a Room of One's Own, for example, that's all queer. I love asking them for recommendations on books. I've gotten some of my favorite books there. Library is sometimes fun because I like just walking there and having a little exposure to different books and then bringing them back.
Morning writing or midnight burst?
Both. I honestly think I need to live in the Mediterranean. I'm really good really early in the morning,
Yeah.
and then I need a siesta, and then I'm a late afternoon into the evening gal.
What's something you'd whisper to your younger writer self?
You're better than you think.
Perfect. Perfect. I love it. That's great. Tell us where we can find you. You can think about this. Tell us where we can find your book, follow your journey, all things Laura Paisley Beck. Tell us.
Okay, so my website, this is another story, unfortunately. So
No, it's all right.
my family nickname is Whamskabam. And as I got older, it morphed into or evolved to Wham, as in ma'am, but then flipped the W up or the M upside down. So Wham, WAAM, Writes, WRITES, LLC.com is my website. And I also have a YouTube channel that I'm starting, a YouTube podcast called Be the Glitter,
Awesome.
where we talk about tough topics that with giggles, and we leave inspiration that sticks. So I'm uplifting a lot of marginalized voices there.
Perfect.
And I'm also on LinkedIn, but it's harder to find me there because there's a lot of Laura Becks who are writers, and LinkedIn doesn't let you put your middle name on there. So,
No.
but I'm LinkedIn Laura Paisley Beck. Yeah, and my book is on Storygraph. Those are some places. I'm kind of a lot of different places.
Got it.
Love it. A big thank you to Laura for hanging out with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Laura.
This has been really fun. Thank
Yeah,
you.
it has been fun.
That's a wrap on this episode of Authors Aloud. A big thank you to Laura Paisley Beck for hanging out with us today.
You'll find all of her goodies, everything about her book, her links, anything that we mentioned in talking to her today in the show notes. So be sure to check those out.
Do you have a book in the works or know someone who does? Hit subscribe so you don't miss the insider tips and author inspo we've got coming up.
And if you are interested in a limited series podcast or an audiobook for your self-published book, check us out at myaudio.rocks.
We're so glad you joined us. Keep telling stories, chasing those ideas, and making magic.